Jake Morrison stood at the big window of the space station called Terra Nexus and looked out at the stars. He had been working here for 3 years as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. Every day he had to sit in meetings with aliens who treated humans like stupid children who did not belong in space. The other species in the galaxy always talked down to humans and acted like they were doing Earth a big favor by letting them join their club. Jake was tired of it all. He was tired of being polite to beings who clearly thought humans were worthless. He was tired of accepting terrible deals that only helped the aliens while Earth got almost nothing in return. Lisa Carter walked into the room holding a data pad. She worked as Jake's assistant and helped him deal with all the messages and meetings. Her face looked worried as she spoke. The council members are very angry that we did not come to yesterday's big meeting. The Xanthari aliens are especially mad about the new trade route plan we did not vote on. They sent 5 messages demanding we explain why we were not there. The other species are also sending complaints. Jake turned away from the window and looked at Lisa with hard eyes. Let them be angry. We have spent 3 years being nice to them and following all their stupid rules. What did we get for being so polite? We got permission to use the worst trade routes in space that no one else wanted. We got defense agreements that protect every planet except Earth. We got mining rights to rocks in space that have barely enough materials to power a small outpost. Every deal we made was designed to help the aliens while Earth got the leftovers like a dog, waiting for scraps under the table. The communication computer made a sound as more messages came in. Lisa looked at the screen and counted them. We now have 23 requests for emergency meetings, sir. The Voidtai want to discuss their cultural exchange program. The Hegemony is offering another partnership deal that probably helps them more than us. Even the council speaker wants to meet with you privately. They are all acting like this is some kind of crisis just because we missed one meeting. Jake walked over to his desk and picked up a sealed letter with the official mark of Earth's government on it. Inside was a single page with clear orders from President Martinez back on Earth. The message was simple and direct. Withdraw immediately. Start Protocol 7. No more negotiations with any alien species. Jake had been waiting for these orders for months. Earth's leaders had finally decided that being part of the Galactic Council was not worth the cost. Humans were giving much more than they were getting, and it was time to stop pretending that the aliens respected them. Lisa, send this exact message to every member of the Council and all the species we have deals with. Jake's voice was calm but firm. As of right now, humanity is ending all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council and every species that belongs to it. All treaties are canceled. All trade agreements are finished. All cooperative projects are stopped immediately. This space station will be empty within 3 days and all humans will leave Council space forever. Send that message to everyone right now. Lisa stared at Jake with wide eyes. Sir, are you completely sure about this? This will cause huge problems. The economic effects alone will be massive. Many worlds depend on trade with Earth. Our cargo ships carry supplies to hundreds of planets. Our factories make products that the aliens cannot make themselves. If we stop all of this suddenly, it will hurt a lot of people and probably make the aliens very angry with us. That is exactly why we are doing this, Lisa, Jake replied with a slight smile. The aliens have been taking advantage of humanity for years because they thought we needed them more than they needed us. They thought we would accept any deal no matter how bad it was because we wanted to be part of their club so badly. They gave us terrible terms on everything because they believed humans would never have the courage to walk away. Well, they were wrong. Send the message, Lisa. It is time to show them what happens when you take human generosity for granted. Lisa hesitated for a moment, then started typing the message into the communication system. The words appeared on her screen as she wrote them. To all members of the Galactic Council and associated species, the human race is formally withdrawing from all diplomatic relationships effective immediately. All existing treaties, trade agreements, and cooperative ventures are hereby terminated. All human personnel and assets will be removed from Council space within 72 hours. No further negotiations will be considered. This decision is final. Jake watched as Lisa sent the message to every government in known space. Within minutes, the communication system would deliver humanity's declaration of independence from galactic politics to thousands of worlds. The aliens would probably be shocked. For 3 years, they had grown used to humans being eager to please and willing to accept whatever scraps they were offered. They had never imagined that Earth might simply decide to leave and take their ships' factories, workers, and resources with them. The message is sent, sir. Lisa said quietly. Every major government in the galaxy will receive it within the next few minutes. The responses will probably start coming in very quickly. What should I tell them when they start demanding explanations or offering to renegotiate our deals? Many of them will probably offer us better terms if we agree to stay. Some might even threaten us if we try to leave. Tell them nothing, Jake said firmly. We are done talking. For 3 years we tried to negotiate fairly, and they treated us like beggars asking for charity. They had their chance to treat humanity as equals, and they chose to treat us as servants instead. Now they will learn what life is like without human ships carrying their cargo through dangerous space. They will discover how hard it is to make the products they need without human factories and workers. They will find out what happens when the people who actually do the work decide to stop doing it. Jake looked out the window again at the stars that stretched endlessly into the dark. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting for its people to come home. The planet had grown tired of watching its children be mistreated by alien civilizations that saw humans as useful tools rather than equal partners. Protocol 7 had been planned for over a year, as Earth's leaders quietly prepared for this moment. Human ships were already moving to collect their people from every corner of the galaxy. Human factories were shutting down production for alien customers. Human colonies were cutting all ties with nearby alien worlds. The aliens would soon discover that they had made a serious mistake. They had assumed that humans needed the galactic community more than the galactic community needed humans. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Earth had spent 3 years carefully studying every trade relationship, every supply chain, and every economic connection between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. The analysis had shown that humans provided far more value than they received. Now it was time to prove it by taking that value away and letting the aliens try to survive without it. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos in its 1,000-year history. Council Speaker Veltara tried to bring order to the massive room where hundreds of alien representatives were shouting at each other in panic. The translation computers worked overtime to convert dozens of different languages into something everyone could understand, but the noise was still overwhelming. Every species was talking at the same time, and no one was listening to anyone else. The crystal being that served as speaker raised her voice using amplification technology, but even that was barely enough to cut through the confusion. Trade Minister Kexalon, from the Xanthari species, slammed his 6-fingered fist on his speaking platform so hard that it cracked. This is completely unprecedented. The humans cannot just abandon all their responsibilities to the galactic community. Our entire economic system depends on their industrial capacity and manufacturing abilities. Without human factories making our products and human ships carrying our goods, we will face shortages within weeks. They supply 60% of all manufactured items in the Outer Rim territories and 40% of the food that feeds the core worlds. Defense Coordinator. This of the hegemony nodded all 3 of his heads in worried agreement. The military implications are even worse than the economic ones. Our fleet movements and patrol schedules are completely synchronized with human early warning systems. Human outposts monitor 17 different sectors for pirate activity and hostile movements. Without their sensor networks, we will be blind to threats coming from deep space. Our own detection systems cannot cover the same areas that human technology monitors so easily. We will be vulnerable to attacks that we cannot see coming. Representative from the Void Tie species, whose body looked like liquid shadow, flowing in a vaguely humanoid shape, spoke with obvious distress in their voice. The cultural damage will be catastrophic for our society. Human art, literature, music, and entertainment have become central to our civilization's current Renaissance period. Our young people have adopted human customs and ideas that have revolutionized our thinking. The cultural exchange programs between our worlds and Earth have produced the greatest flowering of creativity in our history. If this ends suddenly, our youth will revolt, and our society will stagnate. Speaker Veltara activated her personal energy shield to amplify her voice even more, and finally managed to quiet the assembly somewhat. We must approach this crisis in a systematic way rather than panicking like frightened children. I need complete data on exactly what the humans provide that cannot be easily replaced by other species. We must understand the full scope of this problem before we can develop solutions. Economic Analyst Druvan, please. Present your preliminary findings to the assembly. Immediately, Druvan consulted his holographic data display, which showed complex charts and graphs floating in the air above his workstation. The preliminary analysis is deeply troubling, Speaker Veltara. Humanity provides 67% of all manufactured goods consumed in the Outer Rim territories. They supply 43% of agricultural exports that feed the core worlds. Their industrial output exceeds the combined manufacturing capacity of the next 5 largest species in the galaxy. But these numbers only tell part of the story, and they are not even the most serious problem we face. Continue with your analysis, Speaker Veltara commanded, though her crystalline form was already beginning to dim with stress and worry. The color patterns that normally flowed through her transparent body were becoming erratic and dim, which indicated extreme emotional distress among her species. Give us the complete picture, no matter how bad it might be. We need to understand exactly what we are dealing with before we can formulate any kind of response to this situation. Human starships handle 91% of all cargo transport between different sectors of the galaxy. Dravan continued reading from his data. Their crews are the only ones willing and able to take the dangerous routes through unstable space regions that other species consider too risky. Without human freight services, trade between distant worlds will become economically impossible in many cases. The cost of shipping goods using other species' vessels will increase by an average of 400%. Many trade routes will simply become unprofitable and will have to be abandoned entirely. Stunned silence fell over the entire assembly as the representatives began to understand the true magnitude of the crisis they were facing. For years they had taken human contributions for granted, assuming that Earth needed the galactic community more than the galactic community needed Earth. They had offered humans inferior trade deals, poor territory assignments, and minimal representation in government, believing that humans would accept anything rather than be excluded from galactic civilization. Now they were discovering that their assumptions had been completely wrong. Trade Minister Kexelon spoke in a much quieter and more subdued voice than before. How long before the effects of human withdrawal become critical for our survival? Can we find alternative sources for the goods and services they provide, or develop our own replacement systems? What is the realistic time frame before our economies begin to collapse without human support? Are we talking about months or years, or something much more immediate than that? For immediate necessities like food and medical supplies, we have approximately 3 weeks before shortages become critical, Druvan replied grimly. For manufactured goods and replacement parts for essential equipment, we have perhaps 6 weeks. For long-term economic stability and continued prosperity, we may have already passed the point of no return. The human withdrawal will cause a cascade effect, where each failure creates more failures until our entire economic system collapses. Like a house of cards in a windstorm, the Void-Tie representative flowed closer to the central speaking area. What about attempting to negotiate with individual human colonies or corporations, rather than dealing with Earth's central government? Surely some humans would be willing to continue working with us for the right price. We could offer them significantly better terms than they had before. Perhaps we can convince them that this withdrawal is a mistake that will hurt them as much as it hurts us. Defense Coordinator Theiss shook all 3 heads simultaneously. Our intelligence sources indicate that this withdrawal was planned and coordinated at the highest levels of human government. Every human ship, every human colony, and every human corporation is participating in the withdrawal. There appear to be no dissenting voices or independent actors willing to break ranks with Earth's official policy. The humans are acting with a unity and determination that we seriously underestimated. Speaker Veltara's form continued to dim as the full scope of the crisis became clear. Have any of our diplomatic overtures to the human government received any response at all? Are they at least willing to discuss terms for a possible return to cooperation? Perhaps we can offer them significant concessions that would address their concerns about fair treatment and equal representation in our government structures. All diplomatic channels have been formally closed. Theiss reported with obvious frustration. They are not even acknowledging our emergency communications frequencies. Every attempt to establish contact has been ignored or actively blocked. The humans appear to have decided that they are finished talking to us entirely. They seem to believe that actions will speak louder than words, and that we will only understand their value when we experience life without their contributions to our civilization. Captain Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of his cargo ship New Horizon and watched the navigation display with quiet satisfaction. The massive vessel was loaded with rare earth metals, medical supplies, and advanced technological components that 17 different worlds were desperately waiting to receive. His crew of 28 humans had been working around the clock for the past week to complete all their existing contracts before the diplomatic withdrawal took full effect. Every human ship in space had received the same orders to finish their current jobs and then return home to Earth-controlled space immediately. Captain, we are receiving another urgent transmission from the Zenthari homeworld. His communications officer, Maria Santos, looked up from her control panel with a concerned expression. They are now offering us 5 times the normal rate for emergency medical supply delivery. That would be more money than our ship normally makes in an entire year of regular cargo runs. The message says they are facing critical shortages and will pay anything we ask if we will just make one more delivery run to their outer colonies. 5 times the normal rate. Nick Palmer, the ship's chief engineer, looked up from his maintenance console with amazement. Captain, that is an incredible amount of money. We could retire early with that kind of payment. My family could live comfortably for the rest of their lives. Are we really going to turn down that much money just because Earth's government told us to stop working with the aliens? Maybe we could make just one exception for such a generous offer. Ryan shook his head firmly and turned to face his crew. Orders are orders, Nick, and they come from the highest levels of Earth's government. We complete our existing contracts because we gave our word that we would deliver these goods. But we will not accept any new deals with Council species or their allies, no matter how much money they offer us. The withdrawal policy is not about money. It is about respect and dignity, and showing the aliens that they cannot take human contributions for granted anymore. Maria's communication console chimed again with multiple incoming messages. Captain, now we are getting desperate pleas from the Hegemony Military Command. They are offering to completely renegotiate all the defense treaties between our species. They want to give humanity much better terms, more favorable trade routes, and increased representation in their government councils. They are promising things that Earth has been asking for during 3 years of negotiations. The offers are extremely generous compared to what we had before. Where were these generous offers 3 years ago when we were begging for fair treatment? Ryan asked with obvious bitterness in his voice. When Earth's representatives were attending every council meeting and trying to negotiate reasonable deals, what did we get? We got lectures about gradual integration and galactic stability. We were told that humans needed to prove themselves worthy of better treatment. We were told to be patient and accept whatever scraps they decided to throw our way. Now suddenly, when we decide to leave, they discover that they can offer us better terms. Meanwhile, on the main council station, Speaker Veltara was reviewing increasingly desperate reports from across the galaxy. The situation was deteriorating much faster than anyone had predicted. The Void Tie had attempted to hire non-human crews for essential supply runs to their outer colonies, but the other species' ships lacked the robust shielding and advanced navigation systems needed for safe passage through the dangerous Corax Nebula. 3 alien vessels had been lost in just 2 days when they tried to use the same routes that human ships traveled easily and regularly. The Zenthari had tried to quickly establish emergency manufacturing facilities to replace the human industrial output that they had lost, but their production methods were inefficient and extremely costly compared to human techniques. What human factories could produce for 10 credits per unit was costing the Zenthari 47 credits to manufacture, and the quality was significantly inferior. Their products broke down more frequently, required more maintenance, and did not perform as well as the human-made equivalents that they were trying to replace. The most alarming development was that the early warning sensor networks protecting 17 star systems from pirate raids had gone completely dark. Human-operated monitoring stations had been the backbone of galactic security for years, providing advance warning of hostile movements across vast regions of space. Without these sensors, there were massive blind spots in the defense grid that left entire sectors vulnerable to attack. Pirates and raiders were already beginning to exploit these gaps in coverage. Speaker, we have lost all contact with the border colonies in the Sigma Quadrant. Defense Coordinator Thys approached the council leader with all 3 of his heads drooping in exhaustion and defeat. Pirate fleets have already begun launching coordinated attacks on undefended settlements. Without the human sensor networks, we cannot see the raids coming until it is too late to send help. If this situation continues, we will see a complete breakdown of security throughout the outer systems within a matter of weeks. Veltara's crystalline form flickered with stress patterns that indicated severe emotional strain. The light that normally flowed smoothly through her transparent body was now chaotic and dim. Have any of our attempts to contact the human government received any kind of response? Are they showing any willingness to negotiate or discuss possible compromises? We must find some way to convince them to reconsider this withdrawal before our entire civilization collapses into chaos and anarchy. Absolutely nothing, Speaker. Theiss replied with obvious frustration. Every diplomatic channel has been formally closed and sealed. They are not even acknowledging our emergency communication frequencies anymore. All of our messages are being returned undelivered. The humans have completely cut off all contact with every council member species and their allies. They appear to have decided that they are finished talking to us permanently and that nothing we can say will change their minds about leaving. Back on his cargo ship, Ryan Torres was preparing for what would probably be his final delivery to an alien world. The New Horizon was approaching the hegemony colony of Tertius Prime, carrying the last shipment of medical equipment that his company had contracted to deliver. After this job was finished, he and his crew would join the massive fleet of human vessels heading back toward Earth space. The withdrawal was proceeding exactly as planned, with military precision and perfect coordination between thousands of ships and millions of people. Captain, the colonists on Tertius Prime are sending us personal messages, Maria reported sadly. They are begging us not to abandon them. They say that without regular supply deliveries, their colony will not be able to survive. Many of them have become friends with human traders over the years. They are asking why we are punishing them for decisions made by their government that they had no control over. It is hard to listen to these messages without feeling sorry for them. Ryan felt a moment of sadness for the innocent people who would suffer because of their government's poor decisions. But he also knew that this was the only way to make the council understand that humanity demanded respect and fair treatment. Sometimes difficult choices had to be made for the greater good. The aliens had created this situation by treating humans as second-class citizens for years. Now they would have to live with the consequences of their arrogance and discover what life was like without human support and cooperation. Admiral Kate Johnson stood in the command center of Earth's primary military installation, watching dozens of holographic displays that showed the controlled withdrawal of human assets from every corner of the galaxy. The massive operation had been planned for over 18 months in complete secrecy, as Earth's leaders quietly prepared for this moment. Every human ship colony outpost and facility was following precise instructions to evacuate council space in an orderly fashion while taking all valuable equipment and resources with them. The withdrawal was proceeding like clockwork with military precision that impressed even the veteran admiral. Admiral, the final phase of our deep space monitoring stations has been successfully completed. Colonel Steve Martinez reported from his position at the tactical display. All personnel and sensitive equipment have been extracted from Council territory. Every sensor array, communication relay, and defensive installation has been either removed or completely destroyed to prevent alien access to our technology. Phase 1 of Protocol 7 is now complete, and we are ready to begin Phase 2 whenever you give the order. Admiral Johnson nodded with satisfaction as she reviewed the operation reports. What does our economic analysis team say about the effects of our withdrawal? Are the projections matching our predictions, or are we seeing results that differ from what we expected? I want to know exactly how much damage our absence is causing to the galactic economy, and whether the aliens are responding the way we thought they would when we planned this operation. Dr. Helen Brooks, Earth's chief economist, walked over from her analysis station, carrying a tablet full of data. The results are actually better than our most optimistic projections, Admiral. It appears we were significantly undervaluing our contributions to the galactic economy for years. Our withdrawal has created a supply crisis that is affecting over 200 worlds across 17 different sectors. The Council's economic system is in complete freefall and getting worse every day. They are facing shortages that they cannot solve and problems that they cannot fix without our help. What about our alternative arrangements? Admiral Johnson asked as she studied the economic reports. Are the independent species that we have been quietly building relationships with proving to be reliable partners? Can we maintain our economic growth and prosperity without depending on the Council species that treated us so poorly for so many years? I want to be sure that Earth benefits from this decision rather than suffering because of it. Dr. Brooks smiled as she showed the Admiral additional data on her tablet screen. The independent species we have been cultivating relationships with are proving to be excellent partners. The Kalins, the Free Miners Coalition, and the Rimworlds Alliance have all dramatically increased their orders for human goods and services. We are actually seeing improved profit margins and better working conditions without council interference and bureaucratic restrictions. Many human businesses are reporting their best financial performance in years. President Martinez joined the briefing from Earth via secured communication channel, appearing on the main display screen. How long do our intelligence assets estimate before we see complete economic collapse in council space? Are we talking about weeks or months before their civilization reaches the breaking point? I need to know the timeline so we can be prepared for whatever desperate measures they might attempt when they realize how badly they miscalculated our importance to their survival. Intelligence Director Paul Chen answered from his position at the Central Analysis Station, surrounded by multiple data screens. Conservative estimates give them approximately 6 weeks before critical infrastructure failures, Mr. President. The optimistic projections suggest they might last 3 months if they implement strict rationing measures and emergency protocols. However, the cascade effect of failures is accelerating faster than we predicted. Each problem creates additional problems until their entire system collapses under its own weight. What about the non-council species, who always treated humanity with respect and fairness? President Martinez asked with concern in his voice. I want to make sure we are not punishing innocent peoples who were never part of the problem. Are we maintaining good relationships with species that engaged in honest trade and showed us proper respect during our time in galactic politics? We should reward our friends and punish only our enemies. We are maintaining all positive relationships with species who treated us as equals, Admiral Johnson assured the President. The Terran Federation has already received formal requests from 43 independent worlds seeking direct trade agreements outside Council oversight. These species want to work with us directly rather than through the Council bureaucracy that made everything complicated and expensive. We are building a new network of partnerships based on mutual respect rather than the old system of artificial hierarchy. Meanwhile, in the Council chambers, panic had evolved into something approaching full crisis mode. Emergency sessions were running continuously around the clock as representatives tried desperately to find solutions to the human absence. Every proposal they considered met with the same cold reality. Humanity had been the invisible foundation supporting galactic civilization, and without that foundation the entire structure was collapsing piece by piece. No amount of emergency meetings or desperate planning could change the basic facts of their situation. We could attempt forced re-engagement with the human government. Military Coordinator Zektar of the Dominion species suggested during one particularly heated discussion. Deploy our combined fleets to human space and demand that they honor their previous obligations to the galactic community. Show them that we will not tolerate this abandonment of their responsibilities. Force them to return to their duties whether they want to or not, through superior military strength. Defense Coordinator Thys shook all 3 of his heads simultaneously in strong disagreement. That would be extremely inadvisable for many reasons. Our intelligence reports indicate that humans have been developing military technology far beyond what they shared with the Council during their membership. Their defensive capabilities appear to be much more advanced than we previously understood. Any military action against human space would likely result in catastrophic losses for our fleets and would guarantee that they never cooperate with us again. Then what exactly do you suggest we do? Speaker Veltara asked as her crystalline form continued to dim with stress and exhaustion. Every day that passes brings us closer to complete collapse. Our people are beginning to panic as shortages become more severe. Some worlds are already experiencing civil unrest as their populations demand that their governments fix this crisis immediately. We cannot simply wait and hope that the humans will change their minds about returning to us. Real negotiation. Thys replied firmly. Not the patronizing discussions we held with them before, but genuine equal partnership terms that recognize their true value to our civilization. We must offer them everything we should have given them from the beginning: full representation in government decisions, fair trade agreements that benefit both sides equally, respect for their contributions and recognition of their importance. We must treat them as the equals they always were, rather than the subordinates we mistakenly believed them to be. 6 weeks had passed since humanity's complete withdrawal from galactic politics, and the effects were even more devastating than anyone had predicted. The galactic economy was not just struggling, but was in complete free fall with no signs of recovery. Supply chains had broken down entirely, critical infrastructure was failing across multiple sectors, and several council member species were facing serious civil unrest as their populations demanded immediate action. The carefully balanced system that had maintained peace and prosperity for generations was collapsing, like a house of cards in a hurricane. Speaker. Valterra stood before the largest assembly in galactic history, which included not just council members but representatives from every affected species in known space. Her crystalline form was dim and flickering with stress patterns that indicated she was near emotional collapse. The message they were about to transmit would be broadcast across human space and beyond, carrying the weight of an entire civilization's desperate plea for survival. Never before had the proud council been forced to humble itself so completely before any single species. Citizens of the Terran Federation. She began, and her voice carried through the advanced translation system to be understood perfectly in every human language and dialect. The Galactic Council formally acknowledges our grave and serious errors in judgment regarding humanity's place in our community. We failed completely to recognize the true value and importance of your contributions to our shared civilization. We treated you as junior partners when you deserved to be recognized as equals. We offered you inferior terms when you had earned the right to fair and respectful treatment. The transmission continued with an unprecedented level of humility and respect from species that had never before admitted making mistakes or shown weakness to outsiders. The Council offered humanity complete voting rights in all government decisions, preferential trade status that would guarantee fair prices and shared governance of critical galactic infrastructure, including defense networks and communication systems. Most shocking of all, they proposed that humans be granted permanent seats on the High Council itself, with equal authority to the founding species who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years on Earth. President Martinez watched the complete broadcast. In his office, surrounded by his senior advisors and military commanders, the alien leaders were offering everything that humanity had requested during 3 years of patient negotiation, and more than they had ever dared to hope for. When the transmission ended, Martinez turned to Admiral Johnson, who had been monitoring the situation from the beginning. Give me your professional assessment, Admiral. Are these offers genuine, or are they just desperate promises that will be forgotten once the crisis passes? The offers include everything we asked for 3 years ago, and significantly more, Mr. President, Admiral Johnson replied after reviewing her notes. They are offering genuine partnership with real power sharing instead of the token representation we had before. The economic terms are extremely favorable and would give us access to advanced technologies and rare resources while maintaining our independence and our new trading relationships. Most importantly, they are treating us as equals rather than supplicants begging for charity. Dr. Brooks added her economic analysis to the discussion. The financial benefits alone would be enormous for Earth's economy, Mr. President. We would gain access to markets and resources that could accelerate our technological development by decades. At the same time, we would maintain all the profitable relationships we have built with independent species during our withdrawal. We would essentially have the best of both worlds with none of the disadvantages that made our previous council membership so frustrating and unprofitable. President Martinez sat quietly for several minutes, considering all the implications of accepting or rejecting the council's desperate offer. The aliens had finally learned that respect and cooperation could not be demanded through superior numbers or ancient traditions. They had discovered that sometimes the most powerful negotiating position was simply being willing to walk away from a bad deal and let the other side realize what they had lost. Earth had proven that humanity's contributions were not just helpful, but absolutely essential for galactic civilization to function properly. The president finally spoke with quiet authority. They are learning that partnerships must be built on mutual respect rather than one-sided obligations. For too long they assumed that we needed them more than they needed us. They believed we would accept any terms rather than be excluded from their community. Our withdrawal has shown them that they were completely wrong about the balance of power in our relationship. Now they understand that we have alternatives and that their cooperation is a privilege rather than a right. 3 days later, Ambassador Jake Morrison found himself standing once again in the Grand Assembly Hall, but this time the atmosphere was completely different from his previous experiences. The other species regarded him with obvious respect and barely concealed wariness that had been entirely absent during his earlier tenure as Earth's representative. They had learned through painful experience that humanity was not a species to be taken lightly or treated with casual dismissal. The balance of power had shifted permanently in favor of genuine equality. The Terran Federation accepts the Council's proposal. Jake announced to the assembled representatives with quiet confidence. However, we do so with the clear understanding that this partnership must be built on genuine mutual respect and true equality between all participants. Humanity will resume limited trade and security cooperation while we work together to establish new frameworks for permanent collaboration. Any return to the old patterns of condescension or unfair treatment will result in immediate withdrawal without further discussion or negotiation. Speaker Veltara's crystalline form brightened with obvious relief, and her stress patterns finally began to stabilize for the first time in weeks. The Council gratefully and humbly accepts these terms, Ambassador Morrison. Let this crisis serve as a permanent reminder to all species that true strength comes not from domination or superior numbers, but from recognizing and respecting the unique value that each member brings to our shared community. We have learned that taking anyone for granted is a luxury that civilized beings cannot afford. As Jake walked from the assembly hall after concluding the negotiations, he reflected on the valuable lesson that had been learned at such enormous cost to galactic civilization. Humanity had discovered that sometimes the most powerful diplomatic tool was not skilled negotiation or clever compromise, but simply the courage to say no and walk away from an unfair situation. The galaxy had learned through bitter experience that taking someone's contributions for granted was a dangerous mistake that could destroy everything they had built together. The new partnership that emerged from the crisis would not be perfect, because no relationship between different species with different needs could ever be completely without problems. But it would be built on a solid foundation of genuine respect and mutual recognition of each participant's value and contributions. In the vast expanse of space where countless different civilizations struggled to coexist peacefully, respect had proven to be the rarest and most valuable resource of all. Humanity had taught the galaxy that respect could not be demanded or taken by force, but could only be earned through fair treatment and genuine partnership between equals.